Hello everybody and welcome to today's stream where we're playing Civilization 6. You may have remembered that I played Civilization 6 on the streams previously, but I gave it a break because I wanted to play some other things, and I was actually waiting for this DLC to land, which I was very keen on. I'm always keen on more DLC, and with Civilization 6 that means new civilizations to play as, new leaders to play with, and that means also new units and all kinds of other good stuff. So one of the main there were two civilizations that were dropped in the DLC. You've got the Maya and also the Gran Colombia Empire. The Gran Colombia Empire is the one that kind of interested me because it was something I actually had no idea about beforehand. I actually had never even heard the term. We don't learn too much about South American history here in Australia unless we actually go out of our way to research it, and that means that a lot of names and things kind of miss us by until a game like Civilization 6 comes along and introduces us to it. So the leader of Gran Colombia is a man called Simon Bolivar, and he's a fascinating character, as I have since found out. This game introduced me to him. I've since gone and done some reading on Wikipedia. I've got a book there sitting there waiting for me to have a moment to read it as well. He's a really interesting guy. And this game, once again, proves just how good it is as a work of history in introducing me to stuff I didn't know much about. So we'll give people a moment or two to jump on and say hello. But before we get going, hopefully there are some people around and keen on seeing Civilization and chatting with me about it as we play. Now, I should say that I have played this save file for quite a while. You may have remembered, if you were on the previous streams or have watched them back on playback, that I did a campaign, or started a campaign with the Mongolian civilization previously. I got a couple of hundred turns into that before moving on to the next thing with the streams. I've got to about the same point with this one, mostly because starting a new civilization is always it's a dull experience for a while because you haven't got too many cities or units or anything like that to play with. Nothing too much is happening. So what I've actually done is I've got to about the 200 turn mark, which is about the same place I believe that I got to with the Mongolian faction. So we're basically starting at about the same point with this one, just with the different civilization and leader. As you can see there on the screen, this is the little introduction screen that you get before you start playing. And there are a number of features and abilities that are unique to Gran Colombia, including the ability to earn a new general when the civilization enters a new era. That's basically the equivalent of a great person, which is a really powerful unit that helps boost the statistics of your characters. I mean, your other units and stuff. There's also they also move faster. All units have an extra movement to their to their statistics, which is a big boost in helping you obviously get yourself around the map quicker. There's also a unique land unit, which I haven't earned yet. I'm not quite up to that era where they become relevant, and a new building, the Hacienda, which is the ability to improve each of your cities by building those things. So I haven't been able to do those just yet as well. Those are a later game kind of benefit. We will give people another moment or two to jump on, and then we'll get going with this. Okay, so, once again, hopefully somebody jumps on, and otherwise I'm yelling into the void, but it is a Sunday morning, so who knows who's around. Especially now that lockdowns are starting to ease around the world, people have probably got better things to do, and fair enough. But we will plough on, and I'll talk with myself as if necessary as we play. Okay, so we jump into the game. Continue game. There we go. So this has been played on the Nintendo Switch, just so you all know. This is... So it looks a little bit, I guess, poorer compared to the PlayStation 4 version, but mind you, it does look quite nice. They've done a great job with the Switch port. Really, really good job, actually. And then you obviously get the benefit of it having been completely portable, so you can play anywhere, anytime, which is why I prefer the Switch version. Okay, so that's my capital, Bogota. I was actually quite fortunate. They've put the capital... I started in this kind of ring of mountains, which is a natural defense for the city. And yeah, it's a really good place to have your capital right from the start. I've also got a couple of other cities that I've built. There's 4 cities that I've built here. These are all new cities. Newer cities. And then there is this one, which I captured from the Germans. They were the first civilization I met in the game, and I dealt with them because I wanted to expand my empire and give myself plenty of room to grow. So unfortunately, the Germans had to go. In capturing that one city, I removed the Germans off the map, so they're out. There's also a couple of city-states here and here. Preslav and Granada. So I'm on friendly terms with them, though I haven't actually got to the point where they're sharing, their city boundaries with me and stuff. Not the de facto leader of those cities right now. Other than that, excuse me, I'm in a building phase right now. I'm building up various things within each of my cities to stabilize the empire after having that early era war, and yeah, let's go with this. Oh, there is one other civilization I'm aware of at this time. Just one. So I've been slow to meet other civilizations. And that would be this one down here. African nation. Okay, so just dealing with a little barbarian scout here. He's been hanging around up there for ages and he's annoying me, so I got rid of him. And with that, I should have pretty stable borders. I'm pretty sure that at this point I've dealt with all the barbarians around and things are finally settled. So I can focus on building and growing my nation. As is usual for me when I'm actually playing, I haven't done too much with the military side of things. I'm just the way I play Civilization. I just don't do too much military stuff. Yeah, I'm mostly focused on buildings. I think I've got 1 military unit right now. Maybe 2. Maybe there's another one somewhere. I can't remember where, if so. And, yeah, we're about to finish the Ancient Era. 5 turns away. Oh, good. So I built a builder. Builders are useful units because they're the ones that do the improvements. So you can see the little grade icon there. That means that I can use my builder to improve that tile. And after improving that tile, there'll be some kind of benefit back to my nation. As you can see, that's a mining cut, and that's an iron symbol underneath that. So by building there, I will build an iron mine. And over this side, just a regular mine. But either way, that will actually improve the city's ability to produce stuff quickly, which is pretty important. At the moment, my nation is not producing very quickly at all. So if I was to enter a war with another nation, or even just try and build buildings and stuff, I'm doing it at a particularly slow rate. So I needed that builder. Let's move him over here. Let's start with the iron mine, because iron's a particularly important resource for building a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm glad that I have that. I will have that mine in my empire soon. There's a regular mine just there. This city is deep in the process of building up an ancient wonder, which is great. Only 22 turns away, which is the little icon you see next to the name of the city there. That was a major project that I set a city that was probably not ready for building a wonder, to be honest, but it was the most appropriate choice, I guess, for a city that I could spare the time it takes to build a wonder. After building that builder, this city now is free and can build something else. I am going to build a commercial hub, I think, because as you can see at the top, the little money icon, my country, my empire is only producing an additional 9 gold per turn, which is just not acceptable. Now this is going to take a while to build, 49 turns, but after I build those 2 mines, that number will decrease quite significantly. Next is the question of where I want to build it. Sometimes, depending on the structure of your empire, you actually get benefits to building in certain tiles, but at the moment it doesn't really matter where I build this one. On the other hand, I don't want to really lose any of the production, because once you start to build on a tile, the existing production of that tile disappears, and as you can see, for example, this one produces 2 food and 1 production every turn. So if I was to remove that, my city would lose 1 production per turn. On the other hand, I can expand the borders by paying a little bit of money, and that would just remove a 2 food production, which is probably the right thing to do, actually. So let's do that. Okay, and that's it for this turn. Okay, so that's just a warning that's popped up that a couple of my cities need housing. They won't be able to keep growing otherwise. You can improve housing in a number of different ways. I will focus on that later down the track. It's nothing to worry about too much right now. Now what was I doing? Okay, so moving on, the builders move across. Okay, so I pop this up. By building a mine there, I'll get an additional production every turn, and then I'll actually start to generate iron every turn. Now, as I said, iron's a pretty important resource for building a number of different military units and all that kind of stuff. So this is a particularly useful improvement that I need to do. And let's do that. And as you'll see, at the moment, there's 48 turns until the commercial district is finished. I should improve that rate just by building this. Yeah, see, now it's 42. And by building mines, I've actually improved a couple of my process to discovering a range of different scientific discoveries as well, which is handy, makes it faster to grow as a civilization. Okay, there we go. I actually do have a couple of other units. I'm going to pull the scout out. He was resting in the city. I'm going to direct him down here to start looking around, because I haven't explored too far, and I may want to expand the borders of my civilization again sooner rather than later. So let's get the scout out and have a look. Scouts are pretty useless except for exploring, of course. That's the whole point. They don't have any kind of military abilities. Now we'll send this builder back. Each time you build a builder, they can do 3 improvements before the unit is used up. So at the moment, I've got 2 more uses of that builder. What I'll probably do is make 1 more improvement in this city, just to improve its improve its production capabilities. And then I'll probably move it on to another city, because all of my cities need improvements quite drastically. I'll probably move it down there, because as you can see, there's some horses there that haven't been pastured yet. Now, capturing horses are pretty important as well for the production of a range of different military units. Okay, so I've finished the masonry scientific discovery. I can now build walls around my city, which is of course a useful thing to do. Especially, walls have a immediate benefit to the defense of the cities if they get attacked, but actually they also improve the tourism of the city later down the track. And tourism is definitely something that I like to focus on in Civilization, so I actually find walls a particularly useful thing to build as soon as I've got a moment spare. Okay, so I need to find a new science thing to research. Now, it's always better to research something that you've already made some kind of discovery or whatever to get you towards the completion of that scientific research. As you remember, by building the iron mine, I've now boosted the research towards iron working, and now it's only 13 turns away until I'll have that. So let's do that next. Only 13 turns, it's a bargain. Rightio. So my builder unit has now moved across there. Now what I can do, the other thing you can do if you are desperate to boost production quickly, you can harvest the resource. Now that removes that resource from the tile completely. So you probably shouldn't if you don't need it right away, but it does give you a huge boost to production. So as you can see, I would boost my production by 141, which would pretty much get that commercial district built right away. But if I improve this to become a quarry, then I'll get an additional production for the rest of the game. Now, this is turn 176 of 1500 turns, so you know the long-term benefit of just building the quarry is definitely the way I want to go, since I don't urgently need that money right now. So let's do that. And now we're down to 35 turns for the commercial district, so that's pretty good. Especially since the city will grow in 11 turns, that's the other number you see there. Once the city becomes a level 5 city, then production will be boosted yet again, because there'll be more people in the city, which means more work done within the city. Very basic capitalism at work there. Okay, this warrior is now stuck in. The Granada warriors have decided to pin my warrior inside the mountain, so I can't really move him. Might as well leave him there. Bit of a nasty trick there by the Granada forces. They're not actually my enemies, but they've obviously decided to pin my unit. Nothing else. 18 turns for the Great Wonder, 8 turns for the religious district there. As you can see, I actually have absolutely no faith right now. I've done absolutely nothing with that. I do need to do something about that, otherwise my civilization can be taken over by religious fanatics from other civilizations. That's why I'm building the same thing there. So 2 different places I'm building up my faith. Also, that'll let me start to make the process towards launching the Mikuism religion. And it's always fun to convert the world to Mikuism. The only religion that counts. Okay, so that builder, like I said, I'm going to send him down this way. I want to start collecting horses. Now you might be able to see at the top of the screen on where there's that row of icons, on the far right of the icon there is now the iron symbol, and an 8. That means I have access to 8 units of iron. And you can do that for a number of other critical resources. I'm about to do that by building the ranch around the horses. I'll start to develop horses as a resource. And that will allow me to build cavalry. Iron allows me to build various units, including swordsmen, which are particularly powerful at this point in the game. And while I'm not at war right now, I do need to keep an eye on... I need to keep an eye on what military strength I can muster if I need it. There's a volcano there that's ready to erupt. Thankfully, it's out of harm's way right now. Can't damage any of my cities. A volcano, when it erupts, only affects the tile next to it. One of the interesting things about this DLC is that it does bring a range of new disasters. There are meteors that can now strike as well. And you can go into a full apocalyptic state of the world if things go really bad. There's also bushfires, which was something that was not present for some reason or whatever in the previous game, even though it had, in the previous version of Civilization 6. Before this DLC, there was no fires, forest fires, which was a disaster that you would think would be there, but wasn't. It's there now. So you need to be careful if your city is too forested, because it can go up at any time. There we go, the scout's off. It doesn't look like there's going to be much land there, unfortunately. That would be worth settling. Although having a city here around here would probably... I could probably get away with putting a city there, just to the east of the settler. There's plenty of resources around, turtles and milk and rice, which might make it worthwhile. But I'll continue to explore. Let's go down this way. That'll be the end of that. Ooh, whale is a resource too. Oh, tuna. Actually, that's probably not such a bad place to put a city. A lot of sea resources, which are good food. And by building close to the sea later in the game, you can build seaside resorts and really boost tourism that way. It's good to have quite a few cities that are coastal if you can. If not coastal, then also quite a few cities that are next to mountains, because you can also build ski resorts, which are another big boost to tourism. You always think about tourism in this game where you can. And another reason to build the faith buildings is you can actually, later in the game, you can use the faith points that you have to build rock bands instead, which are a huge boost to tourism. And pretty funny use of faith points. Okay, still making progress. The builder's getting close to the horses. Now, as you would have seen, we're getting close to the end of an era. Once the era ticks over, you're going to see what I mean by having the... right at the start of the stream, I mentioned that you get a new kind of great general with this empire every time an era ticks over. We'll see what that general is in a turn or two. One turn. Next turn, we'll get one of those as a benefit for being the Gran Colombia Empire. Yeah, there's not much else here because, I mean, there's the nation state, the city state right there. So building a city up here would not be a good idea. Although the good thing is the scout has now confirmed that I can use this city, once it's finished building its wonder, to build coastal units and ships and stuff. Because that is a proper bit of ocean rather than just a big lake. Sometimes you will start to build ships and things, and then you'll discover that the lake is like that. And there's nowhere to go with a ship. So even though I can technically build ships there, there's no point. I've been caught doing that once or twice before. There we go. The world enters the classical era. 1700 BC, no less. So I think we're a bit ahead of the timelines that real history worked to, but there we go. I just want to finish, just out of the pure sake of completeness. Oh, there's a enemy barbarian scout there. But as you can see, this land definitely finishes here. That's it. Okay. So there we go. The world has entered the classical era. I am in a normal age during this era. Sometimes your civilization or empire will go through an age of enlightenment, which gives it additional bonuses and stuff. But I'm in a normal era right now. Other times it can go the other way, of course. And you can struggle along with Dark Ages. Thankfully I don't have to deal with that. It's just a normal era. And I get to choose a different bonus right now. So this one gives me a big bonus to my era score every time I convert a city for the first time. Now that's not going to happen. I'm nowhere near developed enough in faith to do that. I don't even have a religion of my own to convert people to just yet. Every time I build a new specialty district, I gain an era score. Now that is an intriguing one because I do tend to build a lot of specialty districts, just the way I play. That one is if you're focused on arts and things. Every time you trigger an inspiration, you get... Or construct a building that has a great work slot, you get a era score. Probably not. And then there's also one that does science. So I'm going to go with monumentality because, as I said, I play in a way that will result in me building a lot of specialty districts, and that will hopefully give me a good era score at the end of the era, which will trigger an age of enlightenment for my empire. So let's go to our... There's my general. Let's get him out here. He's not going to be doing anything for just now, but... He can't fight himself, this general, but what he does do is he boosts the fighting of my people. Also, if I retire him, he automatically creates the strongest land combat unit I can build, and it's also a level 1. So while I probably don't want to use that right now, because again later in the game that will be a much more powerful ability, it's good to know that if for whatever reason I'm attacked and I'm not able to muster some units quickly, I can turn him into one. But he has a passive ability which is much more useful. Let's see if I can pull that up. So any unit that is within 2 tiles of him gets a boost to both combat strength and movement. So that's a really powerful general to have in the background, and that's one of the most useful abilities of Gran Colombia as a civilization, is to have those generals produced every time the era ticks over. Okay, so what was I doing? I was ending the turn, there's not much else to do. So the builder has now arrived down there. So this is his last build, he'll disappear off the map after this, but I will get horses. So I'll improve production of this city, which is a tiny little city I've only just built, and honestly it needs the help. It's struggling to build a granary, which is the first building I always give these cities, and yeah. So by boosting production that'll help that, and I'll also start to produce horses, which is a critical resource at this point in the game. Horses are very powerful for making strong units. Do that. And by doing that, I've boosted horseback riding, which is the scientific discovery you need to make to have the lowest level cavalry units in the game. And there's the pasture. Horses have a good little space there, right next to the ocean, in fact. They've got a great view of the world. I'm jealous for them. Okay, so we'll probably have to run through another couple of turns without doing too much. The next thing we'll be building is the Faith District here. And you'll remember, because I picked that era score boost for building additional districts, I've actually got a couple already in production. There's the commercial district there, there's a faith district there, and there's also a faith district down here. So even if I just build those 3, I've given my era score a 3-point boost. And I will be building more than that across this era. I could fight him if I wanted to. I might as well. Got nothing else to do. As you can see, there's a minor victory there. We're going to see the doggies. The doggos are going to have a go at one another. Actually, you don't need to worry. This game is very nice for animals. Even though it depicts warfare in a pretty... I mean, it obviously depicts warfare, but the animals never get injured. The horses run away rather than get killed. And the dogs just sit there and bark. That's that. Give him a break. I'll just leave him there, there's nothing else. The one area, right earlier on in the game, I had a lot of trouble with barbarians coming down from up here. Now there's not much up there to build a city, so there is the chance that more barbarians will come crashing down. Because what happens is every so often a new barbarian outpost gets built somewhere in the world, and there's always somewhere that's not very settled. And that's a not very settled area, which is ripe for barbarians. Later on in the game, they tend to be confined to the Arctic regions because nobody builds cities in the absolute cold. But they never go away. Yes, I know. Most of my cities need need housing, but I'm getting there. I will get there. There we go. I've built the first holy site, and I actually did the right thing. I built that holy site kind of nestled in the mountains, which actually boosted the faith that that holy site is worth. Basically, it's a very powerful holy site that I've gone and built in my capital, which is going to get me significantly closer to founding a religion quite quickly, and it'll be a big boost to the faith score over time, which will be really important in countering the efforts of enemy missionaries to convert cities to their religion. And there we go. Ironworking research is now complete, so I can build swordsmen. That's the only thing that ironworking unlocks, just the ability to build powerful military units. I'll show you that district in a moment. I'll just kill off this enemy scout. Now you'll see the doggy run away. No, he just disappears. He doesn't get injured, he just disappears. Let's skip him. So there's the Faith District there. That's the top, very top left corner. It's got the bird circling around, kind of pool thing in the middle. At the moment it's just a site, but I'll be able to build temples and things on there as well. And as you can see, it's beautifully nestled in the mountains, which really does boost it. And now, now you'll be able to see that I'm producing 3 faith per turn, which is actually a good start. Let's go with horseback riding, since I'm halfway there to unlocking that already, and I really do want to build some cavalry. And now my capital city can have some new things built for it. So now that I've got the holy site, I can build a shrine, which would give me an additional 2 faith per turn, and actually start me on the process towards building to earning a great profit, which is where the religion game really kicks in. If I wanted to build units, I've got now access to swordsmen, or I would. Why do I not have access? I need 60 iron to build a swordsman, so I've only got 22 at the moment. But as you can see, the melee strength is 36, which is pretty powerful at this stage of the game. For comparison, spearman is the next most powerful unit. It's only 25. Warrior units are only 20, so 36 is really strong, but I don't need that quite yet. And I can convert my general to a swordsman if I need to. What I will build, I think, is a water mill. No, a water mill is not that useful. What I'm going to build is ancient walls instead. As you can see, it allows ranged strikes, which means that you can fight back in the city even if you don't have a unit stationed in there if an enemy attacks. And also, later in the game, I'll get tourism from just the existence of those walls. And it's only 18 turns to build that, so that's worth it, I think. Let's build up some walls. Unlike Donald Trump, I'm actually building the walls mostly to encourage people to come to my nation. The exact opposite to what he's doing, but yep. So that's my neighbor. They want me to give them all my iron in return for $10 and $2 per turn for 30 turns. I am actually going to accept that because unfortunately the war that I had with the Germans meant that these guys don't like me much right now. And by accepting their deal, the relationship will be improved. And I don't need the iron right now. So let's do it. The money is kind of useful. Because with that specialty district that I just built, I'm actually spending $1 per turn to maintain it. So now I'm only earning 8.1 coins per turn, which is just not good enough. Now it's up to 10. Let's heal him. The scout can take some time to heal up. So when I play Civilization, there's always a couple of things that I try and focus on to make sure that I have the resources I need. I do like to have a good supply of cash coming in because I can use that cash to build things quickly later on, especially builder units and things like that I don't want to waste production in creating, but I do want to have access to. If I can earn enough money that I can build those quickly, then that's good for me. So I definitely focus on that. I try and focus also on having a good, especially cultural development. At the moment, unfortunately, I'm only earning 10 points of cultural development per turn, which is a bit slow, but I haven't got a chance to focus on that just now. Um, and I like to make sure that I'm also covered in the other areas. Like I like to make sure that I don't necessarily need to be the leading civilization in terms of faith, but I need to be able to counter the missionaries of other nations when they start to pop up on my shores. So having a good balance, but focusing on one or two areas is pretty important. And for me, that means generally it means the economy. I like to make sure that I've got lots of money, and I like to make sure that I've got a good range of buildings and improvements, so that my civilization has resources. A lot of other people will play where they build a lot of military units and try and expand aggressively. Once I've got a certain amount of land accessible to me, so I can build additional cities and things as I need, and at the moment I can build up here, I can build across here, I can even kind of put a city up there. It wouldn't be a particularly lucrative one, but I can do so. So I've got places I can expand without necessarily needing to go on a military conquest. I try to be friendly with my neighbours as opposed to aggressive. It doesn't tend to go well for me when I try and play aggressively. Used to be with earlier Civilization games such as Civ 2, it was really the only way to win. I found there were technically other ways you could win, I guess, but just conquest was really the focus, and building military units was much easier. You had the resources, and there was a limited number of non-military units to build that you would just end up churning these things out and going on conquests just to churn through the units. But later games, I found it harder to focus on military units because it means that I'm building those at the expense of other things, and it's always other things that I would rather be doing. We're getting there. We are getting there. So I will have my Great Wonder in 7 turns, which will be nice. It's really slowed the development of this city down, unfortunately, but it will be worth it. Having a Great Wonder is a huge boost to a nation. Grants tourism later on, most of the time. I think pretty much all the wonders grants tourism. It just supplies huge amounts of something, one resource or another, and it's just impressive to do. It shows how great your civilization is purely on a vanity thing. It's I enjoyed building great wonders where I can. At some stage I'll probably set this one on a great wonder as well, because it's a bit of a sprawling city. As you can see, the borders of it are quite large. Just cycling through the turns now. There's nothing really else to do while I'm waiting. That's my first little trader there. I decided to link up the two cities that are right next to one another, the city-state and this city. There's a little path road there, as you can see. That's my first trader. Hopefully I should be able to get my next one quite soon. I'll get a new spot for a trader when I finish that commercial district. So in 21 turns, I'll be able to build a second trader. You are limited to how many you can have based on, based on really the commercial districts that you've got in your empire. At the moment, as you can see, that's the white circle across the top bar of icons. I can have one trader, and I've got one, so one of one. I can't build another one until I have a new commercial district. Traders are obviously critical for having they're critical for bringing resources, moving resources around the empire, which and for trading with other empires. So they're pretty much the number one source of your income in the later game. Three turns till the Great Wonder's finished, 11 turns for the wall, 19 for the commerce, 8 more turns for that Faith District, 6 for the granary in my newest city. Sometimes with civilization you do need to have patience and just cycle through a number of turns. So I've completed that trade route. So what happens is once a trader comes and they move back and forth between two cities a few times, I think it might be 3 or 4, possibly even 5. Once they've done that a few times, a trade route is actually created. And at that point, you can continue to trade back and forth with the city with expanded benefits, or you can build a new trade route, which will have more minimal benefits immediately, but firstly, you'll build a road between the two cities as you do so, and secondly, you can move money around a little bit more. So I will be doing that. Let's close those down. As you can see, I now have control of the trader again. Because he's finished that trade route, he won't start again unless I direct him to. I can select another city to trade with instead. So there we go. The little icon there in Granada shows that I have that trade route, and if I was to do it again, I would actually get 4 coins per turn in doing so, which is actually a big boost in money. But I won't do that because I want to build a path to another city. Now, if I build the trade routes internally within my own empire, I don't get money as a benefit because, you know, the money's already in the empire, so it's, you know, you're not bringing money into the empire from trading. But I do move food and production around, which is quite handy. I will do that. So I'll build a trade route to the capital. All roads lead to Bogota. And actually in doing so, because I've immediately boosted the production, the number of turns before I finish the wonder has moved from 2 to 1. So immediately I see a benefit, and that'll help my city get back on track once that wonder's built and I can start to work on developing the city again. Even if it does mean that my income's dropped to just 7 coins per turn now. Okay, so he's nice and healed up. Let's move him back to a city. Doesn't matter where, really. Just move him there. I won't need that scout again, I don't think.
The ascent to the highest story is by stairs, and at their side are water engines.
There we go. The Hanging Gardens. I have finished the Hanging Gardens, which, for people who aren't as familiar with history and stuff, the Hanging Gardens were a great wonder of the ancient world, of the Babylonian people, the Babylonian Empire back in the Middle East, and yes, it's actually one that's been in civilization since the early days. I always used to focus on building it as quickly as possible in Civilization 2 because it was a huge boost. It was basically a critical wonder back then. It was pretty overpowered. These days it's a little bit more balanced, I guess, but it's still a very useful great wonder, and it's a lovely looking building anyway. So very glad to have finished that. There we go. So, in terms of also building the Great Wonder, I get a huge boost to my era score. And there it is. Isn't it lovely? And now that city can focus on building something else instead. What will I build? I'm going to, for it, build... It's a hard decision. I'm going to go with one of the recommendations of my advisors. I'm actually going to build another commercial hub here, creating lots of extra money for my empire. So here we go. This is where things get a little bit tougher, I guess. I can significantly boost the value of that trading district by 2 coins per turn by doing that. But that would remove the 2 production and 2 food that I get from that tile, which I really don't want to do. Alternatively, I could spend money to unlock this tile, which I'm currently not using, so the food and production loss would not be felt, and it would be a big boost there too. Let's do that. That costs a lot of money, which sets me back a bit, but thinking long term, that's the way to go. Of course, if barbarians come along, then I'm in trouble now. Actually, I'm genuinely in trouble if those barbarians come along. So let's find that other... There it is. I had another warrior unit somewhere I knew. I'm going to move him up here, just in case. Just in case I have to deal with some barbarians. Warriors units are not exactly powerful, but in combination with that general, they're enough to deal with barbarian units. So one other resource has been added to my nation. You'll see up there in the top row of icons next to the money icon, there's a little square kind of brown colored one with a 3 next to it. That is my nation's tourism rating. That has come from having that great wonder there. And I am now generating tourism. People are coming into my nation just to see the great wonder.
Of life is wasted that is spent in the saddle.
There we go. I now have horseback riding, so I can build horse units, cavalry, and I've also unlocked a new form of government. So I can move of the the lowest form of government, which is chieftain, to a couple of different higher level governments here. These are kind of classical government forms, I guess. So oligarchy, classical republic, and autocracy. As you go on, there are much more advanced government types you unlock, and those allow you to have different policies in place, which are all they give a big boost to your nation's ability to do things in general. So that one's I never build an oligarchy because I'm never military focused. That boosts unit experience and combat. Classical Republic gives you an additional housing and amenity, which keeps the population happy if you've got a district in there, and you also get great person points, which is pretty good. And then autocracy gives you additional yields for every government building and palace in a city with an additional production towards wonders. That's not particularly useful to me because I don't tend to build government buildings, and I'm not currently building a wonder or considering doing so. So Classical Republic is it for my nation. A tier 1 government. giving me another era score boost. And as you can see, I can build a military slot, policy slot down the bottom. That's an any color one, but I can have a couple of different trading or whatever ones. So what have I got? Oops. I will start I'm going to build this one, which is an additional no, that costs no, I will do that. An additional 30% production towards builders, giving me builders very quickly indeed. Since I'm not going to have the money to buy them outright, that's the solution for now. I can also have one green policy, which is that's these ones here. So that's additional influence points towards earning envoys to city-states, or an additional envoy to a city-state when you meet one. That's going to give me better control over the city-states near me, and then I have the ability to put any one other policy in. What I'm going to do there is +1 faith and +1 gold in the capital, which is a fairly minor one, but no, +2 gold for all trade routes. Now I've only got one trade route at the moment, but hopefully I'll get a second one soon, and that will boost my money. There we go. So I've got a new policy agenda, immediate impact and stuff. I need to concentrate on a newer scientific development. Now I've already started apprenticeship. I've done something to boost that. I've built 3 mines, so as a result the apprenticeship one, but as you can see that still takes 31 turns to get, so that's a scientific discovery for down the track. Probably the best way to go is celestial navigation. That's only 17 turns, and it's going to boost my ability to start exploring the sea. So let's do that. And finally, I need to pick a new civic discovery. Now that one's easy to do. Let's focus on drama and poetry, since I've already done something towards boosting that. And drama and poetry is pretty important if you're going to focus on tourism down the track. So let's get started on that nice and early. Okay. That was a lot of things to consider in that turn. Sometimes you get an exciting turn in civilization. As you can see, the caravan has now started to build that little road for me.
افرحوا معي يا أصدقاء لأننا أحرار من كل رغبة.
He just drops in to say something sometimes. That's just an indication that that civilization is happy with you at the moment. So yeah, the unfriendliness that came from my warlike inclinations earlier on has been forgiven. There we go. I've now linked up 2 of my cities with the road. Starting to look nice, this little section of my empire. It's looking very tamed, very built up. Bogota is now a size 8 city too. It's growing. It's one of the great cities of the world, no doubt. Okay, so I've just finished building something. I think that was that. Yep. So my tiny little city that's just started out now has its first proper improvement, the granary, which you can't see on the screen. That's inside the city itself, but that boosts the city's capacity to grow in terms of the maximum population size, and actually gives it food so it grows quicker, which helps it grow better. What I'm going to do for that city is... See, everything's going to take a while to build at the moment because the city is still small. I'm going to actually build a builder because I've got that in government policy which allows me to build builders quicker. 24 turns isn't so bad, and that will allow me to improve that city significantly so that everything else comes easy for it after that. Especially that city has a lot of bananas there, and banana plantations are a big boost, so I can have 2 within the bounds of just one city. A lot of bananas down there. My city can obviously be a banana basket of the world. Two turns and they'll find that city will finally have its faith, finally have its spiritual development underway. Finally. It's been a long time coming. That city, despite its size, is not a very good producer right now. I need to fix that. It's got a mine there, but it's slow. It's slow to grow. It's slow to do anything, really. The Germans put the city in the wrong spot. I mean, for context, I was building the faith thing in Bogota at the same time, and now they've almost finished a wall on top of that, so, you know. Ah, there we go. Finally, built quicker. So, what I can do next... They need a watermill. That boosts production and food. But I also need builders there. What do I do? No. I'm going to go with a watermill. I think. Or builder. No, I'm going to go with the builders. Because if I use the builders... So I'll just explain the decision there. For people who are watching. One of the problems that Aachen has is that the maximum city size is 8. And... it's 9 turns away from growing to 7. So it's not that many turns away from hitting its maximum size. By building a builder, I can put farming down on the sugarcane, for example, or the bananas there. And by doing so, I can actually improve the housing of the city a bit as well. So that's why I've done that. To just buy me some time and boost the maximum size of that city. Skip his turn. Oh, good. The warriors are there. So if some barbarians pop up for one reason or another, I'll be able to do something about them now. Ooh, so that's intriguing. This city's borders have grown pretty quickly actually since building that Great Wonder, and now, as you can see there, I can create a vineyard, start producing wine. This is clearly my cultural capital in the world. Between the Great Wonder, the ability to build, to manufacture wine, the commercial district on the way, it's a pretty neat spot in the world, I think. Ah, so that little red thing there you've just seen above the name of the city, that indicates that the population is not overly happy right now. And if that situation continues, they will eventually rebel. Now, that's not something to be too concerned about right now. I'm pretty sure that I'll have things back under control sooner rather than later. But it's something to monitor. There we go. So I've finished the city walls in the capital. And I'm actually going to be very boring and build a builder there as well. Only 8 turns to do so, and I might as well take just advantage of the fact that I've got the additional resources being plugged into builders. Okay, so let's have a look at the state of the nation right now. We've got 22 turns for that city to finish its commercial district, 7 turns to have a builder in Bogota, 7 turns to have the commercial district in that city completed, 15 turns for a builder there, 14 turns for a builder there. So yeah, that's pretty much where my focus will be next, I guess, for the next section of the game. Improving the tiles in each of my major cities and starting to get control of the land, I guess. By doing so, the cities will run at maximum efficiency and productivity, and from there I can start to really pull ahead of the other nations, I guess, by out-resourcing them, and everything that I then do is, a step above what they can achieve themselves. So we might put a hold, or we might put a finish to this stream today. Obviously, I didn't have anybody to chat to through the stream. Like I said, it's a Sunday, and people are finally being able to get out and about. So totally understand that, of course. But hopefully, people check it out on the replays, and we will see you all next week. The next stream for us will be Tuesday, where we look at something retro. I think we'll be playing Final Fantasy IV again, since we're up to a key moment in that game, a very exciting bit of the game, and I definitely recommend you all come and check that out. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see about whether we play on with this. I'm going to continue playing this through the week. We might get closer towards the end game and show you what that looks like next week on this stream. Thanks as always for watching, and have a great one.